Good day to World Bioeconomy followers from all around the globe. Thank you very much for joining us. We are delighted to be joined today by Philippe Mengal, who is Executive Director of the Circular Biobased Europe Joint Undertaking, or the CBEJU. The CBEJU is a €2 billion partnership between the European Union and the Biobased Industries Consortium that funds projects advancing competitive circular biobased industries in Europe. The partnership operates under the rules of Horizon Europe, the EU's research and innovation programme for the 2021 to the 2031 period, and is building on the success of its predecessor, the Biobased Industries Joint Undertaking, or the BBI JU, while addressing the current challenges that are facing the industry. In his role as Executive Director of the CBEJU, Philippe is the Chief Executive responsible for the day-to-day management in accordance with the decisions of the governing board. Philippe trained as an engineer in chemistry and bioindustry and later on in strategic innovation management. Philippe has also held a number of strategic managerial positions in France and Belgium, including CEO of 3 companies, global R&D Director of a multinational, and a senior consultant in food ingredient, engineering, and life science industries. Philippe is obviously very, very experienced in the bioeconomy already. Philippe's mission is to further consolidate the role and responsibilities of the CBEJU. Philippe, welcome. It's great to have you with us today.
Thank you.
Excellent. Shall we go straight into the questions?
Yes, let's go.
Fantastic. The CBEJU is playing a pivotal role in enhancing the circular bioeconomy in Europe. How would you describe the CBEJU's specific role in the circular bioeconomy?
I think the main specificity is in the name. CBEJU, as was the case for BBI JU, is a public-private partnership, meaning that it is a huge opportunity to align the public interest with that of private interest in order to advance the European bioeconomy. As you said in your introduction, it is a €2 billion budget initiative to fund a competitive circular biobased industry in Europe, with the objective to de-risk investment, mobilize actors, and structure the value chain, because you know that the biobased industry sector is still a very fragmented sector. So it is about developing science and technology for innovation with huge socio-economic and environmental impact. What we do is that we bring together various actors from the biobased industries, ranging from farmers, scientists, companies, investors, to solve the technological, regulatory, and market challenges of the sector. The CBE public-private funding scheme boosts innovation and market deployment and pave the way for future investment. So the CBE aims are to first accelerate the innovation process and the development of biobased innovation solution at the end, to accelerate market deployment of the existing mature innovative biobased solution, and number 3, to ensure the high level of environmental performance of biobased industrial systems. That's the aim of the initiative.
That sounds like an amazing challenge that you have there. So can you tell us a little bit about the take-up of it? What is, the day-to-day action? Is there things happening?
The day-to-day action, how we turn the objective of the initiative into concrete action, is start with the strategic research and innovation agenda. That's an agenda that has been established by the 2 founding partners, as you mentioned in your introduction, the private partner, the Biobased Industry Consortium, and the European Commission. So they set the strategic agenda for innovation to develop the sector with a perspective of 5 to 10 years. And the role of the program office, the CBEJU, my team, is to turn this agenda into call for proposal to select the best project that will be funded by BBI, with different type of project, research and innovation project, which aim at developing a technology which is missing in a value chain or to improve it, and then the demonstration project, which is the scale up of the project, and finally flagship biorefinery project, which are first of the kind biorefinery deployed in Europe.
Sounds very exciting indeed. Very, very exciting. Is this a unique model on this continent, or is there other models on other continents?
In Europe, it is unique, not that it is the only joint undertaking, because there are a dozen of joint undertaking in Europe addressing strategic industrial sector like aircraft industry, hydrogen, and so on. Now, specifically for Europe, it is clear that Europe is recognized as a global leader in bioeconomy. Overall, we are in April, May, but 10 years ago, in February 2012, Europe was the first continent to adopt a bioeconomy strategy. It was adopted by the European Parliament exactly 10 years ago. Only a few weeks later, the US government did the same. Now, specifically to the initiative, for the interim evaluation of the biobased industry joint undertaking, so the predecessor of CBE, it was clearly highlighted the significant contribution made in advancing the European bioeconomy and the biobased industry. Now, it is clear that we are witnessing calls from the US to follow a similar approach to that of the successful BBI CBE. Just to give you a very concrete example that happens in December, so very recently, the Schmidt Future Bioeconomy Task Force, which is a philanthropic initiative from the Eric and Wendy Schmidt, so the shareholders of Alphabet Google, they made a recommendation to the US government with 3 key levels of intervention. And you will see it really looks like CBE. The first is to deploy public-private partnership. The second is to fund flagship biorefinery project. And number 3, to deploy the activity through collaborative research based on demonstration plants located in the US. So it really looks like what we do. But we also see a strong interest from other countries, not only maybe to deploy the same idea, but to find way of collaboration. For example, we have contact with Japanese authorities, and in particular Canada for the forest industry in particular. So yes, a lot of interest. We are quite unique. But okay, if we think it was a good approach, for sure it will be deployed in other continents.
Yeah, excellent. You're being copied. That's very flattering, very flattering. So you're obviously very experienced in the bioeconomy and operating in several interesting emerging bio-based sectors. Which one of those sectors do you see as having the most potential for the future?
It's a very good question, because it has been hugely discussed in the preparation of the strategic innovation and research agenda. And maybe contrary to some sector already quite well organized, like my colleagues from other joint undertaking, in our case, there is not really one the technology, the emerging things, because we see disruptive technology in each segment of the value chain. The sourcing, the production of the feedstock, the transformation of the feedstock, and the application. So maybe there are more, I would say, quite deep trends that we observe in the last years. The first, for example, is that there is less room for copycat, so the drop-in, which is about producing a bio-based solution, a bio-based building block, which is the exact copy of the fossil-based one. So easy to replace, but what is the added value? And we see more and more emerging and entering in the market some breakthrough solutions, which are really providing additional added value. And I like the expression that it's more building on the complexity created by nature. Nature created a wide diversity, so let's build on it rather than destroying it and rebuilding, which is a bit the historic model of the petrochemical industry. And there we see a fantastic future and very promising application. like, for example, based on the biomimetism, we have a project funded by BBI, which is using pheromone to use in a crop protection solution. We also see emerging model like the wood to food, so transforming wood into single sugar and producing protein, for example. Protein is also a very strategic area, because you know that Europe is strongly dependent on protein, and we see emerging solutions to produce protein recovery, of course, from the process, but also protein produced from wood or using insect or microalgae, just to give you a few solutions. But there is not really the emerging technology, but a wide range of emerging technologies.
Fantastic. Your enthusiasm is infectious. It really is. You're really in the job that you really want to be in, which is fantastic. You're doing a great job. So the World Bioeconomy this year is focusing on climate. So what would you say, how would you see the role of the bioeconomy related to climate change mitigation? Where does it come in?
So again, the name has evolved. It was BBI JU, it is CBE, Circular Biobased Europe. And that's very important. We are convinced that a circular and sustainable bioeconomy has a huge potential to contribute to all dimensions and objectives of the European Green Deal. Carbon sequestration in soil, blue carbon and forest, and its storage in harvested wood product together with material substitution of fossil-based product, for example. More specifically, bio-based plastic, bioplastic, bioenergy, bio-based material and textile can generate significant carbon saving and make us to fit with the 55% reduction by 2030, which is the intermediate objective towards 2050. The circular use of biomass, in fact, promotes resource efficiency and stimulates the production of high added value product from side and waste stream. Bark residues, for example, can be used for extraction of protective compound used for non-toxic treatment of wood-based construction material. To give an example, circular bioeconomy, in fact, maximizes the use of side and residual stream from agriculture, wood, food processing, and forest-based industry, thus as a consequence reducing the amount of landfill waste. Moreover, the use of biofertilizer and bio-based crop protection solution can significantly contribute towards achieving the farm to fork and biodiversity strategy objective of reducing fertilizer and pesticide use and risk. Algae farming, another example, can be a new source of renewable biomass for food and green products. Sustainable algae production has the advantage of achieving potentially high yield with a minimum or no land and fertilizer requirement. So really, the European bioeconomy can contribute significantly to reducing the European dependency on strategic raw material, fossil raw material, but also protein, phosphorus, and potassium. And finally, developing sustainable bioeconomies can contribute to enhancements of biodiversity while improving the protection of the ecosystem, which is the consequence of the integrated approach we propose to implement.
Mm-hmm. So clearly the bioeconomy can do an enormous amount in the mitigation of climate change. So that leads me to the next question, which are the current climate change policies acknowledging the bioeconomy's contribution to the mitigation of climate change?
I already mentioned the Green Deal, and indeed, various initiatives under the European Green Deal highlight the key role played by the bioeconomy in contribution to the climate mitigation. Maybe let's quickly review some of them. First, the farm to fork strategy that I already mentioned clearly highlight the role of bioeconomy, the role it can play in reducing environment and climate impact through reducing the European dependency and import of critical raw material. I already mentioned it. The role of bioeconomy can play in tackling food loss and waste is also acknowledging in achieving sustainability by proving business opportunity of valorization of food waste all around the value chain of the agro-food production. Farmers and foresters will help to reduce emission in other sectors by providing bio-based materials and feedstock that can replace their fossil-based equivalent. The European strategy for sustainable textile clearly outlined the bio-based industry role in reducing the European dependency of fossil fuel with bio-based innovation in the textile sector and boost the development of new type of bio-based textile fibers. The sustainable carbon cycle communication clearly acknowledged the role of long-lived bio-based products, for example, construction material, in contributing to the decarbonizing of the European economy and achieve the climate neutrality with the target 2050. And finally, land use change and forestry, the LULUCF revision also acknowledged how a sustainable and circular bioeconomy supported by research and innovation can help the sector to contribute to further climate target. So you see the Green Deal and all the policies clearly refer to the expected role of the bioeconomy. It's not a given, it's an objective. And that's one of the key roles of the circular bio-based industry can play by aligning the interest and the deployment of public-private interests.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Philippe. I have one more question for you now, which is we're having our forum in Ruka in Finland in September this year. What are your expectations from the forum? As I believe we have a speaker coming from the CBEJU. What are your expectations of the forum and what do you think is going to come from it?
Yes, indeed. My colleague Virginia Puzzolo will attend the forum. And the first thing I would say, to meet in person, because it's again a lot of ambition about the deployment of the bioeconomy, but we also saw, like in other sectors, how important it is to meet and to discuss. So that's the first thing. Second, I think it is a very good moment to look at what has been achieved. I mentioned that the first European bioeconomy strategy was 10 years ago, and then it started, we saw here and there in other continent initiative, also at national level. A lot of European countries have now a bioeconomy strategy, but also regional bioeconomy strategy, because in some large countries, you can have a national strategy, but then from a region to another, it's totally different. More interesting, the strategies in a lot of cases has been turned into an action plan. So that's very important to discuss about that, to learn from each other. So to acknowledge the success, it's good. It is good, in particular for the European leadership. But I think it's also essential to openly discuss the remaining challenges and shortcomings and how to tackle them. As you mentioned in your introduction on the specific case of CBE, it is the successor of the BBI that will be based and build on the success of the BBI. But there is something else at the end of the sentence, build on the success, but address the remaining challenges. And I think in Ruka, it's important that we are not only proud of what has been achieved and exchange good practice, but also identify the remaining challenge and agree on how to tackle them. In fact, the objective is to keep the dynamic of this fantastic forum with, of course, the objective for us to realize the Green Deal.
Excellent, excellent. Philippe, is there anything else you'd like to tell our World Bioeconomy Forum followers?
No, to thank you again for welcoming us, participate this discussion today and the forum. So really my warm thank you to all the team. Thank you very much.
Excellent. It's been a pleasure speaking to you, Philippe. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.